Crystal Tower information, Whiskey 21530 Zulu, wind 060 at 5.
076 Mike Juliet, this is departure radar contact.
Hazardous weather information from Minnesota available on flight service frequency.
You've dialed in the Flying Midwest podcast, connecting aviators from across America's heartland, sharing news, information, and events from around the region.
Calling Yankee 53 on Nova Tower, roger, turn left heading 070, runway 9er, clear for takeoff.
Sit back, relax, and join our crew for some hangar talk as we discuss a wide variety of regional aviation topics.
Departure 71143, flying 5, runway 28 left, quick takeoff, left hand southbound.
And now, from our home at the Anoka County Blaine Airport, our checklist is complete, and we're ready for departure for another episode of the Flying Midwest podcast.
Contact departure, every flight.
What's going on, everyone? Jim here with the Flying Midwest podcast. So happy you're able to join us. On this episode, we'll have Bryan Turner from the YouTube channel Just Plain Silly, an almost YouTube sensation. We'll talk with him about his satirical YouTube channel, its origins, and what's coming up this summer. And as always, news, information, and events from around the region, with some friendly hangar talk along the way. So strap in and let's take off into this episode of the Flying Midwest podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Flying Midwest podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Maddie, and this is Jim.
Hi.
And Trevor.
Greetings.
You guys are boring. But mostly Jim.
I'm boring?
Well, your intro is boring. That sets the scene, you know? First impressions are everything, Jim.
I know.
Wow.
But this was supposed
fired.
to be fun and exciting, and I didn't bring it.
And you've ruined it. Absolutely.
Right.
This is why we have tens of views.
Speaking of that, we're kind of growing, aren't we? We have some YouTube stuff coming out. What are you thinking there, Jim?
So we've had some conversations, and I've looked at a couple of things as far as what are we doing with our YouTube channel. We typically post our episodes on there with just kind of an image, whether it be the thumbnail for the episode, the first couple we did, just the logo for the podcast. But we want to start doing a little bit more with that channel. So as we start attending events throughout the year or just cool aviation type of content that we want to put out, we'll use that platform to get more information out. So one of those things I've been working on my hangar, remodeling that since we purchased it back in October. I'll do a video kind of showing some before and after stuff and a quick tour of the hangar itself.
If we could have a fireside chat.
Fireside chats with Trevor. I was hoping the fireside chats were going to be you outside of your trailer in San Antonio or Arkansas or wherever you ended up in your journeys with the Air Force.
We definitely could. I do have a chair now outside.
Perfect.
Ooh,
Everyone
look
is
at you all fancy.
We'll be looking forward to seeing more of Trevor's fireside chats outside of his trailer at various Air Force bases near you, which all oddly enough are not in the Midwest unless you go by Trevor's definitions and oddly drawn geographical boundaries.
So, Maddie, what do we got in store for today's episode? We got a real treat for everybody, don't we?
For this episode, I am pleased to announce our very special guest. You guys may know him if you've been in the aviation community and you have a sense of humor. His name is Bryan Turner, and he runs a little tiny YouTube channel called Just Plain Silly.
Isn't it true, Maddie, that he almost made the list of AOPA's 2020 YouTube sensations?
Just shy of the mark. I guess he was just too famous. We're going to be talking with him a little later, but first, let's jump into some news.
We're going to read some stories, and Bryan is going to give us his reactions to those. I'm sure that he'll have some opinions as we go along here. So, probably not. Well, good thing we brought you on.
It's April Fool's. I'm just playing it straight. I'm just not talking.
Oh, that'd be great. Just play it straight.
Your joke.
That's your joke.
So, a Midwest aviator is receiving some mixed reactions after an off-airport landing in a Cirrus SR-22. The aircraft experienced an engine failure mid-flight. Shocking. And the pilot...
That was fast.
Okay. And the pilot heroically landed the aircraft without power in a sod field. The landing has baffled many in the Cirrus community, leaving them to wonder, is this pilot the stuff of legend or just too stupid to pull the caps? You decide.
My take is obviously he stole the plane. He's not a serious pilot. I know enough serious pilots out there to know that if it was an actual serious pilot, you're not going to attempt to land it on a field. Oftentimes, just not even on a runway. Like even attempting to put it on the ground in one piece is not the first line of thinking with an actual serious pilot. I think he stole the plane or pilot incapacitation.
Fox, yeah.
Yeah, there's something wasn't right. If he'd never flown one before, that's not how you do it.
Beautiful.
Good to know. In bigger and more important news, the state of Kansas has formally announced its intent to secede from what is considered as the Midwest. This movement is led by notable podcaster and self-proclaimed U.S. geography expert Trevor Norman. This has gained significant momentum after recent comments on his aviation podcast. Kansas will join Colorado in forming its yet-to-be-named region of the country. Norman has refused to acknowledge Kansas as a member of the Midwest and stands firm in the movement for regional independence that states such as Texas and California currently enjoy. He promises to continue to be a voice for change for Kansas.
Well, you guys know how I feel about the whole Midwest thing and the geography of the United States. So I think Colorado is.
Would you like to join too?
What's that?
You want Texas to join too, so they can be their own conglomeration?
Texas is the middle, Colorado is the Midwest, and you guys are in the Middle East. That's how this works. If you put a line down the middle of the country, that's the Midwest, and there's the West. So I think you Midwestern people don't want to admit that you're on the East side.
We're Middle Eastern.
I'm with Trevor on this one.
So we're Middle Eastern is what you're saying.
You're Middle Eastern, I'm middle, and he's Midwestern. Yeah, he's Midwestern. That's what it is. Colorado's the Midwest. Yeah. In California.
Isn't Texas like its own thing though?
Texas is okay. I'm not like a Texan. I'm kind of here because my family's here. I'm not part of the
here.
I don't fit in. Yeah, Texas. I don't know. Texas is Midwest and Mideast. I'm in the East side, just on the Dallas kind of side of things. So I'm Mideast.
Mideast.
So basically like Turkey, right?
Yeah.
Mideast.
Accents.
So, what light sport lobbyists are calling a, quote, unprecedented win for general aviation, the FAA has announced that they can no longer keep up with the uptick in medical applications. In order to combat this, the government entity has begun to send sport pilot certificates to qualifying new candidates whose medicals are considered acceptable, which the FAA has indicated to be, quote, healthy and fit to fly, but has had one of those medical conditions we don't talk about, end quote. The FAA, instead of becoming more updated with their handling of medical conditions, old diagnoses, and, well, pretty much everything else, has decided that the sport pilot is the way to go for most folks. We have yet to hear if these special sport pilot certificates can be traded in for an actual medical sometime in the future, or if this is just early career denial. Instead of just denying you outright, they're just going to send you a sport pilot certificate and let you do your own thing.
I think that's a fantastic idea. I think they should have a sport pilot version of everything. Like I never wanted to go get my instrument rating because it was such a pain. I just wanted to get like a sport instrument rating just for pop-up clearances, just so I could do. I don't care about doing approaches, but I don't like being socked in. But no, I think they should have a sport pilot medical. Everything should have the sport. Like, do you want to do this thing, but you don't want to put in all the effort? They should do it, or they should do like Disney and give you a fast pass where you just pay a little bit of extra money and they just. I don't know they don't do that.
So they actually do their jobs. Yeah, that'd be great.
Explain it to me, because right now I've been flying someone else's plane for 4 months. The last time I bought a plane, it was 10 days, and it's like it is going so slow right now. Everything they do, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, registrations. I know people's registrations are expiring because they do the 3-month advance and then they just don't get another one, which is awesome.
So they're going to start issuing sport registrations too under that same
sport registration.
I don't know.
process?
The FAA has not yet claimed anything, but seeing as this is a trend and it's a downward one, I'm sure that it'll be soon. We'll hear about the sport registration.
I like it. I like to think of this as a light sport podcast. So. I want to go to the light sport FISDO next time I get in trouble. Be like, okay, you've done something bad. Now move along.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad. So just
I like it.
Light sport podcast. I think that's my favorite thing you've said so far.
All right. A hijacker sues airline after getting sucked out of an airline exit. After being promised by friends and other fellow aviator experts that pressurized cabins will not allow for the main door to open while in flight. And he said, I have reliable sources that say it's just a scare tactic, that nothing would actually happen. Thank goodness I have my parachute like Trevor Jacob. The hijacker, known only as Jimmy, he's the one who tried taking over Nor'easter Flight 1172 over Ohio. The aircraft did sustain substantial damage when the door opened in flight under pressure. Unfortunately, the airline's first officer got sucked out of the airplane as well, but also hitched a ride with Jimmy on the way down. Both men are unharmed. Now, the FAA and the NTSB are watching this case closely, and they're determining whether or not a new airworthiness directive needs to be implemented to label doors as dangerous and in-flight operation, authorized flight crew only, as to put a label on it. Of course, we'll continue watching this development as it continues through the civil litigation process.
I happen to know for a fact that if a door comes open in flight, you're getting sucked out. I proved it.
You did.
I did see that video. That's fact.
It's 100%. That's why airplanes have seatbelts in them, because the doors pop open. Every movie I've seen where a door comes open in flight, people go out the side.
Should we talk about some events coming up?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So you've heard of some of these events for Oshkosh every year. You've got the Piper groups that fly over together. You've got the Cessnas to Oshkosh. Well, we're excited to announce Cirrus over Oshkosh, not to Oshkosh, over Oshkosh. A group of 500 or so Cirruses will fly just above pattern altitude and plan a coordinated formation CAPS deployment. They plan to float into the show with the grace not dissimilar to the U.S. Army's Golden Knight parachute team. Should be really impressive.
Nobody would be surprised. Nobody at all. I think it's more surprising when I go to Oshkosh and you see them all land together.
Calling all Super Cubs, the Johnsonville Municipal Airport invites you to its annual Nordo Fly-In. They will have special seminars on see and avoid dynamics, tower at airport light gun signals, and traffic pattern cutoff maneuvers. All transponder, ADSB, and radios are strictly prohibited. Come on down and crush the party.
That was the best one. I mean, that was a really well-written news story. Sorry.
Are you a pilot who longs for the simpler times of aviation before all those EFBs? Join us for the E6B Top Gun 2022. Do you have what it takes to compete against the fast wheel spinners in the Midwest? Test your skills solving wide variety of aviation math problems with your trusty companion, the old school E6B. More information to m0a.com.
Hey, everyone.
All right. What do we got next on our docket, Jim?
We're really excited to welcome Bryan Turner from some YouTube channel we heard of, Just Plain Silly, I think it's called. Might have made it. No, it didn't make that list with AOP. Did it?
No,
that's not a source spot,
after I caused a stink about it. They added me.
Well, at any rate, we want to welcome Bryan to the podcast.
Thank you.
We did have Trevor redraw the lines of the Midwest to include you, so that you technically fall within the qualifications of our show.
I appreciate that. That made it a lot easier than me having to commute over to you guys' area for this.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, Bryan, how did you get started in aviation?
It's weird. Probably, I would assume I have the same story as everybody. Like it was going to happen one way or the other. And for me, in hindsight, it happened a lot later than it should have. When I was a kid, it was kites and toy planes and radio control planes, and I mean, just anything that flies. And even to this day, if something flies over, it annoys other people who live with me because we have to stop, or sometimes even just go outside and see what's flying over. I'm just fascinated by flight. And when I was a kid, I wanted to be a pilot. I'm real surprised I didn't go into it. Like when I started being serious about, when I had to go to college, I didn't think of it as even an option. In hindsight, I kind of wish I would have, because it's been probably my biggest passion in life. I used to go to different flight schools and be like, how much is it to learn to fly? And they would tell me some number and I'd be like, I'll never be a pilot. And so finally, this is a true story. I was like, I want to learn to fly, but I can't go to any of the flight schools because they keep rattling off these big numbers. And so I got on Craigslist and I looked up flight instructor, and I found a guy who was the cheapest flight instructor he wasn't a school. And so when I called him, I was like, hey, it's like $20,000 at Monarch or here or there. And he's like, I don't know what the number is, just whatever. It was $120 whenever I took it, I guess. And I was like, so I just pay you when we fly? And he's like, yeah. I was like, oh, I can do that. I have a job. Like I've got a steady stream of income. I can't pay it all at once. And so I was 36 when I started. flying, or when I got my license, I was 36. I was probably 35 when I was training. But in hindsight, I'm torn. Obviously, I love that I'm in it. I wish I would have started younger, but knowing who I was when I was younger, probably if I started younger, I'd probably be dead, because I was a lot more of not a risk taker, just stupid. And so probably would have done dumb stuff. So it's probably better for me and the family that I waited till I was later. But it's one of those things that's cliche to say it's in your blood. But in the 80s, my dad was flying a Cherokee, I think 160. And I remember just every time he'd come home, like, maybe he'll ask if we can go flying, you know. And what's fun is he quit flying for years. And then I told him, I'm going to go take flying lessons. And, you know, he's like, yeah, you know, whatever. And I remember when I came home with that shirt tail, because I'd soloed, I could just see it like in his eyes. And so he's, you know, talking to my mom. And so he's like, well, I talked to your mom. We're going to get a plane. I want to make sure you have something safe to fly. And so then he got current. And so now he and I fly together all the time. And he bought the Cirrus. So thank God. I mean, I would never have had the experiences and any access to something like that. I think him buying a plane and all that was, one, he wanted to get back into flying, and two, he knew I would go buy the cheapest duct tape together piece of that I could find and be like, I don't know, mess myself up. But so it's always been there, but I executed on it a lot later than in hindsight I imagined I would have.
How did you get into satire, Brian?
People were mean to me on the internet, and I use humor as a defense mechanism. So I've always, that's a long story, but you can edit it. That's your job. I've always never taken anything very seriously that, you know, didn't need to be taken seriously. And there was a turning moment when I was a teenager. My dad had this friend named Wayne. And I remember Wayne was an old man. He was probably well into his 40s, old man. And I remember the funniest guy I'd ever just met. Like, this guy had a just conversational humorist, and it just always had something. And I remember I was like the child version of that. And I always, you know, my dad looked at these other grownups, and I was like, well, one day I've got to be normal. And I met this Wayne guy, and I was like, oh, okay, you can keep being, you know, you don't have to become this suit. And so I remember that moment of being kind of like relieved. Like, I don't have to someday say, okay, I'm going to choose from this day forward to just be dry and boring. So I've always, you know, class clown, the same kind of story or whatever. But if I don't do public speaking. If I did, I probably would try stand up or something. But I like just dread like this four view. That's it. That's all I can handle. But so I love to. I don't love to be funny, but I love to make people laugh. And I don't know if you understand the difference there, whatever. It's like, I like, my favorite thing about the channel, and we'll get into how I got into it or whatever, but are like, just there are people who make comments like, hey man, I was having a crappy day and this just changed my morning. And I'm like, that means the world to me. It's not about someone going, oh, that guy's funny. It's being able to have that impact on someone. And I have a lot of younger people in my audience too. And it's neat to have like kids go, oh, I thought this thing you did was like, it just cracked me up with the oil or on your face or whatever it was. And so being able to kind of, I don't know, not really make an impact because you're just making someone laugh, but being able to get that reaction, I love that. So how the aviation portion of that started was I used to be on my favorite forum is called Pilots of America. I spend way too much time on it. And I used to fly a TB9, the first plane my dad bought, a little Cicada Tampico. And I was learning to fly, asking questions, and I used to always write jokes, and I made these little I'd write like a play using the characters from the forum, and they're very, very funny. And I always thought if you asked me if I ever did anything in my life outside of corporate America, I'd be a comedy writer. But then, you know, Dad, he said, I want to sell the plane. I want something a little faster. I'm thinking about getting a Cirrus. And I was like, that's great. The next day, everyone in the forum was like, oh, I'm the worst pilot ever. Like, you can't land the plane without a parachute. And you know, it was just like the whole thing changed. And I was like, what the hell? Like the plane changed and suddenly I'm a terrible pilot. I was already a terrible pilot. Like, the plane had nothing to do with it. And so it was, some of it was tongue in cheek, but some of it was, there were some real a-holes. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to make a video of just what this forum thinks this stereotypical Cirrus pilot is. And I made this video called How to Land a Cirrus. I didn't know anything. I taped a cell phone to my head to film it. I didn't know anything about, like, right now I've got like 9 months. And I did that, and I was like, I posted on the forum because they knew I was always writing humor stuff on the forum. And I was like, I'll show you guys. This is what you guys think of the Cirrus pilots. And like, for whatever reason, it took off. And the next day, my friend's like, hey, get off my Facebook page. was like, what are you talking about? He's like, that video you made. And I was like, I was so scared because someone on the forum had shared it. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I was terrified. Like, people are going to see this video. I'm making fun of pilots. I'm making fun of this plane. I might get sued. And, but like, it was suddenly it's like got 50,000 views. And I was just like, oh my God, what do I do? I need to go call Sirius and be like, I'll take it down. And then like, that was my only plan, was to make that video for that forum. And if that video hadn't taken off, I wouldn't be sitting here now. Like, I was like, oh, that feels good. I'll and Sirius didn't sue me, so I'm like, I'll do it again. So I made one called How to Pre-Flight a Sirius, and then that one kind of did. And the same thing, I only shared it on this forum. I wasn't sharing it on places, but other people were, and I was like, okay. And so I was like, well, I'm just gonna kind of keep doing this because I like being able to write, but I had a blog that wasn't working. No, I still only have 7 subscribers on my blog.
Maddie's one of them, I think.
But I love to write. I was like, but I can't get the writing in front of people. And I was like, the only way I can do it is to put it in video form. And true story, I hate the name of my channel, but that was the name of my blog. It was just plain silly. And I thought, well, maybe if I name the channel that, it'll drive traffic to the blog. Mm-hmm. No, it didn't. People want videos. And so I get the joy out of writing and creating and crafting. And then now I'm starting to get joy out of going, how can I make this happen? Okay, if I do a green screen, or I mask this, or I do some kind of off the wall thing. So that the writing is fun, and then the putting it together is kind of fun. I don't care about the really being on, like, I'm not an actor or whatever. I don't know how to explain that, but I like the creative process. And so now I've got 2 of those, with the writing and then how to make a video where it's like the last one I did, I'm on X-Plane, and I'm taking all the planes and I'm masking them out, making it look like I'm in formation with B1, SR-71.
Yeah, I saw that.
My Comanche. But so like, it's so far-fetched, right? It's complete satire. And so that part's fun for me. So that's kind of, the humor was always there. The love of aviation was always there. And they got merged out of me being annoyed by people on the internet. And then people are like, this is great. I was like, you hated me. And then now it's okay.
So in talking about how your channel got started, how has your channel evolved from those early days, and how has it changed from when you started making those videos?
I've quit taping cell phones to my head.
That's a good start.
I now have so much equipment. A lot's changed. So, man, it's weird, the evolution of it. Don't ever go back and watch my stuff, because I find, like, once it's up, I'm like, immediately it's cringy. Like, I just can't. And so, people will be like, oh, this old one or whatever. And I'll go back and click on something from a year ago, and I'm like, oh, that's so embarrassing. I try to, because I'm friends with a lot of people who do this, and I'm all like, what kind of camera are you using? And so I want, even though I've always said no one comes to my channel for quality, I do want it to be a quality product. So now I'm using nicer equipment. I'm using, I fought spending money on GoPros for the longest time, and I kept buying $20 knockoffs off Craigslist. And finally it was like, just buy a GoPro and whatever. And now I get to write that stuff off. So that's cool. So the quality, I would say, has improved. One thing that I never would have thought of in a million years was the amount of content you have to create to keep it going. And there's a YouTube rabbit hole that I would say most people get sucked into. And I was like, I won't ever go down that path. And you do. So early on, it was like, I'll make a funny video for the forum, and I'll make another funny video for the forum. And then I talked to this guy, I went flying with this guy. He's got a channel called Flying Doodles. And he says, and then my friend Dan Milliken from Taking Off, they both like set me down, like, okay, you need to do at least 1 video a week. It's got to be 15 minutes long. And I was like, whoa, no, impossible. I'm like, you people who just go fly around for an hour can do that, but I've got to write, I've got to edit, I've got to do all this crazy stuff. I'm like, there's no way to do that 1 a week. So I do 1 a week now. It's writing, editing, and all that kind of stuff. So I would say the frequency of the videos, the biggest thing that's changed is the realization that the first time a company calls you and says, hey, we would like to sponsor your channel, and then you have certain things that you have to keep up your end of the bargain. And my goal after hanging out with a handful of these people was like, okay, there's a tiny bit of money trickling in. And it was like, okay, it's paying for a couple gallons of avgas here and there. And then it got to where, okay, I'm making my hangar payment with it. Then it got to where I'm making my plane payment with it. And so it was kind of paying for most of aviation. And so I was like, if I can have it just pay for my aviation, then other people who live with me won't complain about how much I'm spending on my hobby. And so I've gotten to that point where it's pretty break even. And so I want to sustain that. It's not about, I'm not nothing from my channel or sponsors or anything goes into my checking account and sits there and grows. It really does go back into making more content, making sure, if I got SD cards and cameras and stuff like that. So, but in order to keep that up, because I don't want to dip into our funds, because this is my hobby. Really, we probably do 1 or 2 family flights a year. The rest of it's me flying around because I love to fly. And so to sustain that, you can't you can't take breaks. You can't let it dip. You gotta keep stuff coming. And it's very hard to do that. So that's the biggest change is if I want to keep meeting that goal, I've got to keep, when everyone goes to bed tonight, I'm writing, I'm trying to come up with ideas, or going, well, maybe I can film something that's a little serious, but it's a vlog this week. And then I promise to go back to something funny next week. So that sort of the duck's feet under the water thing that's going on is real. And so that's kind of hard. It's like a second job, but there's so many rewards, and that's why people do it. And by rewards, I mean like going to Oshkosh and someone coming up to you and saying, "Hey, this thing made me laugh." Like that's like the best thing in the world. I got stopped so many times last year, and people are like, "Are you that guy?" And I'm like, "I don't know. What's your goal? Like, are you going to hit me?" But then they tell me about something in a video they thought was funny. I was like, "Man, you remember that? That's so freaking cool." And so that's kind of the drive, but that's the biggest thing is going from, I'm just going to do this thing once and do it again here and do it again there, to going, okay, I'm going to consistently do this. And my focus now is improving the quality. And I'm working on lighting, and I'm trying to get good sound, and I'm trying to make sure that I've got multiple camera angles that make sense, and I'm cutting them at the right time. And it's that whole technical part of it. Never care. Again, duct tape, cell phone to the head. I didn't care. I was just like, I want to make jokes. And now it's like, okay, I watch TV and go, okay, how frequently do they change camera angles? Okay. And if 2 people are talking, it's going to be the right side of this guy's face when we're on him, and the left side of that guy's face when we're on him, and just the technical aspects of it. So that's me thinking technically about what I'm actually doing is something that was never early on a thing.
I think that's pretty cool, because you talk about changing people's lives. Now, a lot of people don't really know about this, but I've been overseas a handful of times. It was your channel. It was Josh Flowers, and then it was you guys that I watched, and just kind of made the time go by a lot faster. And like, versus me being bored out of my skull, and maybe I should have gone to work out at the gym, but I was too busy watching your guys' content.
That's cool. It floors me because to me, I'm like, I've got like the worst case of imposter syndrome ever. And so people be like, "Hey, we were out here and your name came up," and I'm like, why? I know, like yesterday I crossed 30,000 subscribers, but I'm like, so I know that that's there, but like I'm like, really people are watching it. And so I get nervous when people come up to me, because I'm like, I just want to apologize to everyone that comes up to me. They're like, "Hey, I saw you, I love your channel." And I'm like, I'm real sorry. Like
I don't have any interaction with you, so I'm sorry. I don't know you, but hey, great for knowing me. Thanks.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. Because again, to me, it's just sort of like, I'm sorry if I'm obnoxious and you think I'm an idiot.
Well, you're married, right? So, I mean, we all say that all the time anyways. I'm sorry that you think I'm stupid and I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
It's just practice.
It's kind of ingrained as, if you're married.
Yeah.
I do have one very specific question for you, Brian.
Oh, boy.
Uh-oh.
What is your high and what is your low of your content creation?
So the best things I've made, and they're the hardest. My gosh, they're the hardest. So 2 of my favorite videos, I did a video where I went to this aviation event in Kansas, and everyone was there. Like the Padies were there and all the people were there. And so I was like, my channel's supposed to be fun and stuff. I can't just go document this stuff. And so I made this sort of like drama about how these people were all like spies and robots and stuff, and they were out to get me. And like, I was like, this is Martin Polly, and I like anagrammed his name, and it spells something else. I forget what it's, Platinum Ray. Martin Polly is an anagram for, he's Platinum Ray. He's a cyborg out to get me. And so I made this whole adventure where I'm like sprinting, and I flew a Stearman out there, and the kid who was really flying it was this kid named Austin. Little kid, so you couldn't see him in the back, and it's like, I'm stealing the Stearman. And so I've got this thing where I'm just like, look, and I'm like, crap, it caught on fire because he's got the smoke on and stuff. And so like it was so fun to make a little mini movie. And another one that was one of my favorites. Another one I did. These are my top 3. I did one where I went out with I have a friend named Spencer Suderman. He flies with Patty Wagstaff in Florida, and I went out to go fly with them. And the first time I went out there to fly, it was the same thing where I made it was a drama about how I'm on the phone with him, and he's like, "We're going to do this, spend the money on the plane ticket." And like, Like as soon as I landed, like in the sky, it was raining for 2 days. And we just said, okay, we're just going to make this thing about how I'm this impatient kid. Like we're flying and he's going to be like dad that we're not. And we turned it into sort of a mini movie. And it's fun to do it. The editing takes weeks. And then my last favorite one, and this one was well received. I do a little thing called pilot impressions. And one of them I did was it's every pilot argument in 5 minutes. And so it was me and myself. And I approach myself in a room and like just kind of have this conversation, and we just get into it: high wing versus low wing, Richard peak versus lead peak. Like,
yep.
It was just like I'm actually working on another one very similar to that, but that was a lot of fun. The technical aspect, like I have to act like responding to someone who's not there, but then how long would it take him to say that, and I got to say this. How long would it take him to say that, and I got to say that, and then I had to do it 100 times. And then splice it all together. And even now, I'm like, I could have done a better job with it, but that was fun because it was like, okay, I've got a project here that I don't know how to tackle. Like if it was just me and someone else having a conversation, it's easy. So those three are the highs. The lows, man. There's a couple videos where early on where I was like, okay, I've got to start doing more, and I wouldn't really have a good idea, but I would come up with something just to have a video, and then in hindsight, I'm like, this is trash. Like you need to delete that. Like, and people responded to it good or whatever, but I'm looking at it and I'm like, I did these 2 videos on basically how to fly into an airport without. I forget what the premise was, but basically I built this big yellow X. You put it on the runway, airport's all yours.
Yep.
That's funny. That's it. The rest of the video, I'm just like, oh, this is such cringe. And so early on when I know something was forced because I didn't have a funny idea, I said, I'm going to go film something and try to force it to be funny. And that never works. It never works. So
you do this content creation. I know a lot of people are asking, what do you use? I mean, do you use GoPros equipment wise? Do you use SDLR or DLR? What are they called?
A DSLR. I use
DSLR.
Yeah, DSLR. So for here in my room, my office, I use DSLR. So what I have is GoPros are not great. GoPros overheat, they freeze, they have all kinds of problems. And so what I've switched to is much cheaper, much more durable. These things are called DJI Osmo Action Cams. They've got a front screen. So if you got one in the front of the plane, you can see if both people who are there can see. I use those. The only GoPro I use is I've got a 360. And I like this because I can put this in the plane anywhere, and I can get 4 different camera angles without having to have 4 different cameras. And then if I'm going on a trip to like Oshkosh or something, I have this thing. It's called the Ghost Drift XL. It's got 9-hour battery life.
Nice.
So I can put it out on the wing, and it got me all the way from Oshkosh to Texas, and was still recording when I landed. So I've had a handful of different GoPros. They all freeze crap out or have issues, and then. If you want to be a content creator, audio is way more important than video. And so I have different audio recorders that I always use for a second source of audio, because ask anyone who does this, at some point they will have spent a lot of time working on a video and gotten back and be like, audio didn't record, I have to trash everything. So two sources of audio or I won't record, because guaranteed if you have one source of audio, it's going to fail.
That's amazing stuff. I don't understand the first step of that process of the content creation, because when I had my airplanes, I had GoPros on it. I tried making a video or two and it just turned out to garbage. It's like
it's hard. And fortunately for me, I live in a place where, and I don't know who all you guys know. Josh Flowers doesn't live too far from me. Well, I think he just recently moved to Arizona. And my friend Dan has this channel called Taking Off, and one of his things is he brings all these YouTubers on. And so I'm hanging out with all these other people who are going, hey, I've solved that problem. Let me show you how I solved it. And, we all, don't waste your time buying this, buy that. And so really quickly you get sucked into it, and you go, okay, well, I need to get the right equipment, because otherwise it's frustrating to pay a lot of money for something. And these are, I always say these cameras are cheap for $300. It's not that much money for what you're getting. You're getting a image stabilized 4K video. Like, think about that. That should be a lot more money. But so it's like, it's less frustrating to spend money on good equipment than to have to deal with the aftermath of bad equipment. And so that's kind of my mindset now. It's just like, buy the good thing, and then you'll be a lot less frustrated than if you buy the bad thing and you're like, oh, the picture's got jello or artifacts or whatever else in it. So But most people I know that do this are kind of stepping away from GoPros now. And then every YouTuber, if you're ever bored, go to epidemicsound.com. That's where all that goofy EDM dubstep music comes from that everyone puts in their B-roll montages. Epidemic Sound or Audio Jungle is where you get your stuff. Everyone's editing in Premiere or DaVinci Resolve. DaVinci Resolve is free, but it's harder to use. Adobe Premiere is a fantastic product. I'm trying to think of other inside secrets. We all have this in-flight mic where you plug your headset into the microphone so that you can get the audio from the headset, so you don't have all the airplane noise blocking it out. And then other than that, it's just trying to sync it all up and, figure out in Premiere. It's great. I can have 4 camera angles in there, and it's just playing, and I can see all 4 camera angles in just like the Zoom window looks, but the real videos over here, and I can say, okay, I'm going to click this one and it cuts, and then I'm going to click that one and it cuts. And so if one person's talking, I just click, and then it saves it in that format, so it does all your camera switching for you. It's pretty cool. Huh. I'm in my next video. I'm duct taping a cell phone to my head. If it does really well, I'm going back to that.
I'm speechless. That's pretty innovative. I never would have thought of anything like that.
Which part? All the real fun technology stuff, or the duct taping a phone to his head?
All of it.
I do
because
appreciate
that is a technique.
Well, and now it's like, I want to mount a camera on the tail facing forward, but it's going to be there the whole flight. But I really just want the one shot of the gear coming up or the gear coming down. It's like, well, that's going to be a battery and an SD card. Like, I don't know. It's like, I love that shot. I love seeing the gear come out. Maybe it's because it's new to me to have that option. But so strategically trying to figure out which camera I want to place where is always fun.
The cheap one.
I haven't lost one yet. I've had one. I tethered it to a gas cap, and I've got this. I'll have to find this video. It's a great video. The camera's on the wing, and you just see me in the cockpit just flying, and all of a sudden the camera goes sideways and just starts rattling against the side.
Oh no!
Yeah, put the cheap ones on the outside, and I on the outside I only use metal mounts because I care about losing the camera, but so there's a very gray area about mounting cameras on your plane. Mm-hmm. It's not technically illegal, but if it falls off your plane and becomes fodder or hits somebody, then you're operating recklessly, and now you're the guy that screwed it up for everybody. Mm-hmm. So I have on the outside of the plane, I only use metal mounts because those little plastic mounts, they snap all the time. I don't want to be the guy who leaves a camera on the runway and they go, well, let's go see what's on this. And like, oh, sure.
What's this Big Deal X video on here?
Yeah, some indiscretions on there.
So where do you get your ideas for your content?
I don't know. People ask me that. I don't know. Trying to think.
Make something up if you have to.
Oh yeah, I'll just make it. Well, I'm very brilliant. A library. I have a whiteboard over there that I write things on. I don't know how to use that camera, but over there I've got a whiteboard, and that's if something comes to me that's just an idea, I'll just go throw it on the whiteboard. And so after about a couple of months, if it's still up there, it's probably a good idea. If I erase it, it's probably not a good idea. It's 2 ways. One, I'll think of something funny that has nothing to do with aviation, and I'll go, hey, can I tailor this joke or bit to flying? Or rarely, and I shared this with you guys before, stuff will just come up where I'm like, the Comanche I'm flying, the gear horn, it's too low, like not audible, but like I'll be in the flare before it goes off. I want a gear horn that shocks me to let me know the gear's on. I want to get electrocuted. I want it to spray like, so that's where I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a video, and I'm working on this like video where I'm like trying to figure out how to improve your gear horn. It'll electrocute you. But the problem I have is that's a 30-second joke. And so I'm like, well, how do I TikTok, I guess? Or just other things, people, there's the old joke about, the Cessna or whatever, the plane's so slow, it has bird strikes from the rear. And so I was like, well, my Grumman, people make fun of it for being slow. And so I did that video where I was going to clean up the wing, because you got to clean it up after you fly, but it was all bird guts and it was on the back side. So if something funny comes up, I'll see if I can make an aviation, or if something just weird in the cockpit that I'm like, there's a different way to do this. Then that's usually where my brain goes down one of these rabbit holes. But I don't know where any stuff, like if I sit down with a notepad and paper and just start writing, I just stuff kind of comes up, and about 50% of it's crap, maybe all of it's crap. 50% of it I'm willing to expose to other people. The other 50%, I'm
50% of your content you're willing to let people suffer through.
Yes. A little guilty afterwards. But then something happens like that Trevor Jacob thing. And I was like, there's no way I'm not doing something like that. It was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. I was like turning an hour before this thing's not hot anymore. Like,
I thought it was pretty hilarious. Not the event itself, but the satire that followed on with it.
Well, I wish I could do that, because that video took me 5 minutes to make. It's like, oh, we're just going to play the video and talk about it. I don't got to fly. I don't got to spend money on fuel. I don't got to go, do weird stuff. And that's the one thing where I'd like to figure out how to do more things that are easy, but result in a good, I don't know if quality is the right answer, but a video that people enjoy. Because I got a lot of positive feedback from that one. I'm like, that's where I'd like to focus, just because it's like right now, I'm like, okay, I want to get a video out Sunday. I haven't gotten in my plane with a camera because the winds have been so bad. I'm like, so I probably won't. It's like, can I fly? Can I edit? Can I film? Can I do all these things in the next 5 days? But if I had more kind of things like that, I'd probably be a lot less stressed out.
I have a suggestion. Edit yourself into air disasters.
I stupidly.
Did you do that?
I didn't know. I did a series called Air Disasters, and I was like, this is part 1 of a 7-part series. And I was like, I got through 3 and I was like, this is too much work, but I have 3 of them. And I'll send. I don't even remember what the premise was. I'll go watch them and see. But it was like the most mild thing happening. Like I'm in the video. It's like dramatic music and everything's bad. And it's like the problem is my left foot itches, and I'm afraid if I reach down to scratch it, I might tickle myself and hit the rudder pedal, putting myself into a spin. And I have it narrated by like the most dramatic guy on Fiverr. But it's these dumb fake disasters. But those were ones that were fun to write and fun ideas. But at the time, I don't know, I could probably do it now more efficiently, but yes, I think air disasters, as long as I can do it without making light of plane crashes, it's okay. I had to ask that question before I knew it though. So yeah, like one of the disasters that I started writing and didn't finish was something like, I'm flying along and the worst thing happens. I get a text from my wife saying, when are you going to be home? It's just like, start sweating and be like, I don't know why. Are you making sandwiches? Like just, but that kind of stuff. I think maybe I need to make that one.
So what's next? I mean, obviously you've got a few things in the pipeline. You've had a lot of different experiences, FSDO wise.
Hoping to not have any more of those. They're a minor inconvenience. Next, this is my favorite part of the year because it's an easy time to create content because there's stuff coming up. Every year I've got to fly in Rough River, Kentucky. It's a handful of us that go down there, and it's fun to go out. I don't film a whole lot of just kind of like flying content, but I like that trip. And then kind of prepping for Oshkosh and what am I expecting to do this year. And last year, I'm going to try to do it this year. I tried to pull it off last year. I called it Choose Your Own Air Venture. And I would put 4 or 5 things up every day. And I was like, you guys vote on what you want to see and I'll go film it. But the problem was I had to upload it from a tent in the middle of Oshkosh with 400 or 1,000 people. So it didn't pan out. So I'm trying to create an interactive experience that doesn't necessarily require live streaming out there. Or some other way. So I like the prep for Oshkosh. My favorite thing about Oshkosh is there's this lady named Ruth at Monroe County Airport. If you go to Oshkosh and you are on the way there, on the way back, if you stop for fuel, she'll take a picture of you, take down some information, and she puts it in this book, and she's been doing it for 22 years.
Wow.
So, sweetest thing ever. My dad and I, the first time we went, we stopped for fuel, and she's like, well, she's 70s, 80s. She's like, well, let me take your picture. And so she got a picture of me and Dad by the plane. And we asked what she's doing. And she said, this is what I've been doing. And so we started going with these books. And I was like, I know this guy. This is my flight instructor's plane. And so last year I went up and I just walked in the door and she knew me, which was cool. And I filmed everything. And then we went and found our picture from the prior year with my dad. And so that's one of the things I can't wait to go stop at that airport and talk to her and get my picture in the book and go look at the old pictures. So Air Adventure is great, but just the other surrounding pieces of it are very exciting. Any travel, any one of these not events, but like the Kentucky flying that I'm doing, the stuff that goes around, the getting there, the stopping. I got stranded last year on the way and we had to abandon the plane and commercial home, and the story that was my dad was not happy I left his plane in Arkansas, but just the adventure of it, because I don't get to do that very much on my channel.
Interesting.
So this time of year, I have a lot of content that doesn't require me to come up with some funny thing.
Well, what do you say we transition a little bit to our game?
Oh boy. The game I know nothing about.
That's the best part for us.
Yeah, I know, right? Did Brian say it?
Dun, dun, dun. I thought it was going to be like a far aim regulations.
We were going to go with that, but
if you want to.
Yeah, we were going to go with that, but I don't know most of them, so.
So the premise of the game is, did you say it or did you not say it?
Oh man,
which should be really easy because you said you get really cringed out by watching your own videos. So.
Yep.
I'm okay. I don't know. I feel confident.
All right.
Okay.
Here we go.
I probably said it.
By students, I mean teaching a beekeeping class to blind kids at a local skating rink.
I said that.
Yep.
All right, first thing you want to do is sit in the airplane and make engine sounds with your mouth. If it sounds rough, just push the mixer in a little bit. Did you say it? Did you not?
Sounds like something I would say. It's tough because I know there's a video of me sitting in my plane making engine noises, but I don't know. It was like kind of. I'm going to say unconfidently yes.
You did not.
I did not. Okay.
All right, Maddie, take one.
All right. I do track up. That's the right way to do it.
Absolutely. Well, I do. The last actual official quote I made on the subject was, "I fly track up unless I need to read." Then I quickly switched to north up, read what I need to read, and then switch back to track up. I'm going with yes.
Yes.
Ding, 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 ding.
You did. And it's actually
Although
a video.
north up is the true way to do it. Sorry.
Oh, we're gonna start that debate. That's actually the video it came from, where you're debating yourself.
Oh.
Let's see here. 2 things you need: iPad and coffee.
Yes. I remember. I wrote because I wrote that down. That's the thing is I don't really watch, but I remember like what I wrote down. That was the How to Fly Plane in 5 minutes.
Yep.
It was like when the pandemic first hit, and I was like, "You're stuck alone in the pandemic," or whatever. Yeah, I remember that.
We're gonna go play presidential TFR chicken.
I just did that. Yes, I did.
We had to give you an easy one, just in case.
That video was awesome. And you know, the fun part for me is I'm watching this video and that message pops up, battery 10%. And my dumb ass is looking at my phone. I'm like, what the hell? I just charged this thing.
I didn't even think of that, but so many people told me that. They're like, crap, I thought my phone was about to die. And it reminded me, I did this video called How to Fuel Your Airplane. I don't know. And at the very end of the video, I said, well, there's only one thing left to do. And I go, Alexa, play Baby Shark. And then the first comment was Trent Palmer going, she's too far away for me to get her to quit playing, so I got to listen to the GD songs. I didn't even know you would watch my channel, so I pinned that to the top. I was like, it worked, and it worked on Trent. Anything meta like that, like now I do want to just randomly put like a battery drain like on this. It didn't even occur to me that people would think it was their screen doing it.
It was awesome.
Oh, that's so funny.
By students, I mean I teach archery to amputees at an area water park.
Amputees does not seem like something I would say for fear of offending amputees. I'm going to say I didn't.
You did not.
Okay.
Not.
But you did at one point say teaching mechanical bull riding to people with vertigo at the local pub.
That was recent. That's one of my favorite things to do is my students and my students, but I'm always like trying to think of something that.
There's one left.
Yep. If the tires are flat, the plane can't move. If a plane can't move, it cannot be stolen.
Yes, I did say that on my aircraft rental video. I'll tell you a funny story about that video. That video is really old. I filmed it and I was like, this is trash. And so I never put it out. COVID had just hit. I just gotten turned into the FSDO for the second time. And that was the kind of serious one because me and that guy are not, it wasn't just making a joke on the internet. It was making a joke on the internet. And then that was a tough one. I didn't do anything. He knew I didn't do it, but he falsely accused me of doing something. And so I was pissed. And so I made that video because I wanted to just basically, I know he'll get back to him. And I want him to know that he committed a federal crime. And so I made that video, and then I was like, I'm going to get sued by the company that he works for. And so I was like, I just need to put something out just to signify. I said what I need to say, and I'm moving on. And I was like, what can I do? And I was like, oh, I've got that stupid video I hate about the plane rental. And I was like, I put the FSDO video out. The very next day, I put that plane rental one just to say, I'm past it. I said what I was, and my wife's like, that's funny. And I was like, it's horrible. And she's like, no, it's funny. And so that's the first video where I started asking people. I was like, what's funny about it? Because I don't think it's funny. And everyone said it was the pacing, because it was just like, scene cut. It wasn't like, obviously I ramble. It wasn't me just rambling into a camera for 3 minutes. It was, everything was, quick. It's quick one-off. And so I was like, okay, I need to kind of remember that formula. But that whole video was something that was never going to see the light of day. But I was like, in my mind, I was like, I'm going to get sued. And I don't know how putting out another video was going to get sued. But in my mind, it was like, now he'll know I'm back to being funny.
That's awesome.
I like those quick scene cuts in that one where it's like, all our planes' tires are flat.
It's the airport I fly out of. Every freaking hangar's got a plane of an owner who died 20 years ago. And
jeez.
Yeah, that's sad.
Real sad. And their kids all are like, they want to hang on to dad's plane. One day they're going to fix it, and it's like, you're looking at them, you're like,
we didn't ask Brian his unpopular aviation opinion. Brian, what's your unpopular aviation opinion?
My unpopular aviation opinion is 100% unsubstantiated. I refuse to accept that the tail wheel makes you a superior pilot. I'm sure it's hard. I'm sure it's different. I think if you want to convince me that something you only use on the ground makes you a better pilot, you're full of it. It might make you better at taxiing the fuel pumps than me, doing the S turns because you can't see over your nose. I don't have to get zero time to tail aircraft. Maybe I'll go get it, and I'll be like, it makes you a better pilot. But that's my unpopular.
No, now you have to get your tail wheel and say, no, it makes you a worse pilot. And just be that guy.
Oh, that guy wasn't a good pilot, so I'm getting my tail wheel because I want to be a man.
I'm just too good of a pilot. I need to be worse.
My other popular opinion, Bernoulli doesn't have half as much to do with lift as Newton. I think Bernoulli's riding Newton's coattails.
Ooh, I like it.
I know the low pressure is there. I don't believe for a split second that it's enough to lift your plane off the ground, because planes like extras have symmetrical airfoils and they fly upside down. They fly all kinds of directions. Paper airplanes don't have an airfoil at all. And if it's Newton's doing the heavy lifting. Bernoulli might be like, hey, thanks for inviting me along, but he's not the one doing the work. Instructors are teaching that it's Bernoulli. I may be wrong, but I'm going to die on that hill.
I love it.
It was fun having you on board here.
Well, thanks for having me. This is fun. I love talking about airplanes and goofing off, and that's exactly what we did.
Yeah,
yep.
that's exactly
mission accomplished. We talked about your planes, we goofed around, and
the best part about it is we get to actually enjoy this. I don't know if we'll be able to enjoy it do you think we'll be able to get this published by April 1st?
That's the idea. It's an April Fool's episode. My plan is to have it out April 1st.
This guy's not sleeping for 2 days.
I'm not sleeping. I'm going to ignore my children more than normal, and we'll get it done.
Hopefully we can have you again in the future, and maybe not an April Fool's episode where we actually get to talk about real stuff. I mean, not that we didn't talk about real stuff, but
where have you been the last hour?
I just, the little monkey with the ding, 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 ding. That's what's going on up here.
I don't doubt that.
The symbols.
Yeah.
Which, oddly enough, is the logo for our podcast. Check that out in the future.
No, like I said, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a pleasure meeting you.
No, this is fun. You guys are a lot of fun.
Three idiotic talking heads.
Yeah. Tens of people are going to hear this, Brian. It's going to be great for your channel.
Yep.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I had a great time talking with Brian tonight.
That was stupendous. He's a good guy.
I think anytime you start off a podcast episode, which is arguably not a visual form of media, and you as the guest show up with a horse mask on, we're really going to have a good
time. Indeed.
It was really a good conversation, and I think I quit.
Just like that?
Good night, guys. I'm going to bed. April Fools.
Oh, jeez.
Whatever.
Oh, I see what you did there. Oh, well. Well, we hope you enjoy this April Fool's edition of the podcast. Clearly, these articles that we talked about earlier and the events are satirical in nature. Please don't try to go pull caps over Oshkosh.
Hey, Jim, who do we have for our next episode?
In our next episode, we will have Nicole Mitchell. She is a lieutenant colonel in the Air National Guard, running a weather squadron out of Wisconsin. She's also a former meteorologist with KSCP, a local station in Minneapolis, and she has
A pretty impressive resume.
Yeah. Oh, and she also flew with the Hurricane Hunters.
Again, a very impressive resume.
Nicole's going to join us to talk a little bit about springtime and summer weather and the challenges that you may face in those circumstances as an aviator. As always, if you have any ideas, comments, questions you want to provide to us, you can reach us on any of our social media platforms, or you can email us at flyingmidwestpodcast@gmail.com.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Click the bell.
You know, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Say this, Trevor. Say until next time, and then we'll do the thing.
Until next time.
See ya.
Yeah. See ya.
Flight 536, contact Minneapolis Center 132.35 today.
Thanks so much for joining us on the Flying Midwest podcast. Until next time, podcast service terminated, squawk VFR, frequency change approved. Good day.
So here's what it is. So one of the things that I think is cool that you guys had me on, and I've listened to some of your other podcasts, and I noticed you guys always do this blooper reel at the end. I think it's pretty cool that we managed to pull this one off without having any mistakes or bloopers or something. So I think it's probably going to be unique to people to not have the bloopers in this one. So I think it's kind of cool we managed to do it without doing that.
Why are you looking confused, Maddie? Or is that just your face?
Okay, I'm done with this. That's what I say to make myself feel better about not being good at anything.
I would agree with
Yes,
that.
Jim, you may use that in the bloopers.
I was going to. I don't need your permission anymore. Like, we're going to do this thing on my hangar. Come check it out.
Maddie, the reason we brought you here today was because we wanted to have a serious talk with you about something that's bothering us all.
Is this an intervention?
I actually have your dad on the phone. My phone is Mr. Johnson. Is that what you call him?
Yes, that's what
I
she
call
calls
him Dad, but
I call him that too.
I'm going to Spokane to go get tortured.
oh,
Brian, they're going to make him sit down and listen to our podcast for about 6 hours.
They give us a safe word.
That would be the first thing out of my mouth. Here's your coffee can, like daffodil.
General Platypus.
oh, good.
General
grief.
Platypus, is that your safe word?
No, it used to be.
It used to be. Okay.
Oh, that's
You can splice that together, right, Jim?
You better hope
I
so.
would say don't. Nice.
Shut up.
See, I looked away for a second and I heard Brian say nice, and the next thing I hear is Trevor yell, shut up.
So that's why the podcast
Whoa, what just happened?
is so great. It's like, this guy's the greatest pilot of all time. And I was like, well, why do I own the website? You know?
Oh, rabbit hole. Sorry, where were we?
You guys are
Asking
talking
me
about how great I
questions.
am. Nice.
Shut up.